Yo, what up? What up? What up, everybody? It's TB and on. We're gonna do the second episode of Legion. Legion's been on FX for a while. This is like Illuminati high art. This show is unbelievably beautiful. If you're, even remotely, I'm just gonna build this up. If you're even remotely into television, like, you should watch the show because it's just high art. I mean, cinematography, everybody working on the show is just like, oh, it's amazing. So exactly at that point, that's where you can see the really powerful messages. The really most advanced propaganda usually comes out of these shows that are just so compelling, because the more compelling they are, the more you're willing to suspend your disbelief, and the more susceptible you can be to some serious messaging. Plus all the just symbolism and everything everywhere. So yeah, when I watched this like 2 days ago, I was just gonna go through some of these notes. But man, is it a good show? Last season was incredible, and it continues. It's like an acid trip or something. It's really insane. A lot of questions about consciousness and just the nature of being, basically. So let's go. I was looking at what's up if you don't know. So there's a lot of this. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more later about the crystal ball, but there's a lot of this imagery of future telling. I mean, and it's sort of just all of these symbols overlapped on top of each other. You got the androids, you got the time travel, consciousness transfer, multiple consciousnesses in a single body. It's sort of across the gamut. It's like they're throwing all the symbols that are required and just layering them all on top of each other, but in such an artful way. That's why I want to definitely make that point. This is a good friggin' show. The way they do it, it really just wraps around your mind. Right, so what I want to look at, minute 4 is where we see, yeah. So these guys came in, or girls, they came in the last episode, and they're basically cyborgs. Or other sort of, yeah, artificially made intelligence. They sort of talk to each other, but it's that whole imagery of the feminine form, changing in society. And here, I mean, they see if we can find the line.
Is he? She? Are they? I don't know what to call them. We call them vermilion. Are they?
Right, so that's again the same. You're seeing this all over television. This talking about gender pronouns and identity and what is. And so I think on TV to really, I mean, this is a way old tactic, but to explode division between different groups. You use these fantasy characters or something completely way out there to it's just sort of a more extreme version of, black, white, race, religion, gender, that whole thing. But if they're telepathic, mustache wearing cyborgs, then that's it's a little more interesting. But you could still push home the same points you would be making about race relations or any other sort of social issue.
Mutants, androids, I think, synthetic, artificial.
Synthetic, artificial. I mean, that sort of says it all right there. But they seem to be the people that are these androids. They're like the smartest. They have all the answers there. It's just that God AI sort of thing where they're going to go to them for to solve any of the problems, because they seem to be omniscient and time travel and whatever. It's all those sci-fi things are just completely overlapped in this show.
No one knows. All right, stop the truck.
Right, but I think that's interesting. It's interesting to me. Just talk about the race with the how do you explain it? The See, I'm tired. Gender and how you sort of make those issues even more and more important is that Marvel's been doing this since its inception, basically. I wanted to talk because I see these like everywhere in other shows too. It's like in the title sequence of Beyond. I mean, there's an interesting image for you. If you don't watch this show, you won't really notice, but the fuck?
They're gone. Okay, come on.
Carrie?
What's wrong?
Right, and she's got the arm of the other guy. So these two people are like completely bonded in a way, and only one of them is ever supposed to be outside or in reality at any given point. They sort of trade places with each other, but continue to share the same. I mean, it's a very, very like multi-layered issue, question about reality and consciousness, and is this kind of thing evolved? But the theory is sort of that they're prepping everybody for consciousness transfer, for basically your immortal soul not being attached to your body. There's just sort of variations on that theme, which I think is interesting. Yeah, but I wanted to find these laser beams. Where are those laser beams? Right in this scene. So he comes in. This is always, I mean, that's what I mean. I want to talk about these strange sort of visual cues where it's kind of trippy, but I seem to think that there's some sort of deeper psychological effect behind it. So I mean, you could say this is just lens flare, right? This is just an effect or whatever. But I've had, there it is again. I have to pull it up in other shows, but I've been seeing this all over the place. Like in Beyond, it's even in the title sequence. It comes all the time whenever magic is happening, and as you can see, it's sort of showing up when the magic stuff is happening here. But yeah, usually, I mean, it has a light source, but that sort of effect, and it blinks in and out, right? It comes in. And it fades away again, and you just, obviously, you just using this one example, you'd be like, well, this don't be stupid. It's just a lens flare of those trucks, but these horizontal, and it's always this blue color. I've been seeing these everywhere, basically, and I'm not sure what the effect or it usually comes in more tense sort of scenes. See it all over the place here.
What is that?
But I guess, it's the same thing with space and all that other stuff. If you put a visual phenomena on television enough, like chemtrails, like any other thing, that people will get used to it, and they're saying, so maybe this is something that the stars might start looking like, or already do look like. I mean, many theories there, but I think it might, the most likely being that this horizontal blue line has some sort of mental effect. If you're not noticing it, if you're just letting it watch by, I don't think it's going to work if we're talking about it like this.
Sid.
Chance the object is explosive in nature. 27%.
Okay. Anyway, so I also wanted to talk about transhumanism.
Swing on a star.
So, that's a pretty good effect, right? Let me get this. Yeah, so, I mean, again, as always, you don't really need to know too much details about the plot, but these guys, the bad guys have somehow escaped and are disintegrating the basic soldiers, Again, this is another, I mean, it's Marvel, it's FX, so there's all the same sort of rules seem to apply. You got to have a lot of deaths, you got to have a lot of violence, and this counts for every single episode. There needs to be multiple deaths and guns and that sort of thing in every episode. It just seems to be a requirement, especially for these types of shows, right? And so he's been evaporating the last couple. Let's watch this. right? And he turns that one into a pig. And I would just sort of point you at, can we look here? I don't know. Because I started to think about connecting the dots. If you look at the pig lady from, what's it called? Electric Dreams. It's one of the episodes, right? This is one of the episodes from Electric Dreams, which is from Amazon, and it was an amazing episode. In this other sort of, it's like Black Mirror, but Philip K. Dick, basically. But there's this transhumanist sort of pig character in one of the episodes, and it's like completely normalized, even though they're sort of like a different class of human. These pig characters, and she sort of gives advice to the main character, and it's a really good episode with Steve Buscemi. But that's a person crossing with a pig, and then again, some of these connections you say that's tenuous, and I guess that's sort of the whole point with this entertainment stuff, that it is all fiction, and so any sort of connections that you could make could just be laughed off. But that's the thing, you keep seeing them over and over and over again, and it's just too many times to be coincidence, basically. So right, there's the pig lady. And let's turn the audio back on here. If
Be a fish.
right.
Shit, maybe that was
See that? Do you see the face superimposed over the top? Let's get rid of this. You see the face superimposed over the top of this. Right, that's sort of the main bad guy, but it's again, this shows it's so beautiful too, but that is sort of a deep psychological effect that they're causing. This character hasn't really been, I don't think we've even seen him for real yet, but they're superimposing him.
Or would you rather be a fish?
Over the top of this, because they're connected, but just to point out yet another sort of subtle psychological technique that they could use, is just putting this guy in your brain. Yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip. They're putting it in your brain, and it's hard to know what effect that's going to have. Whether that's, but it seems to be like it would generate some sort of fear, since they are killing people in the scene, that it would generate some sort of fear response in you when you actually see him. So when this character is fully introduced, that you would, already have a very unsettling feeling about him, but wouldn't really know why, right? But you can clearly see it. I mean, he's got his glasses. It's creepy as fuck, but. All right, and the other part, I don't want to get bogged down with the similar. That's the thing. There's just so many overlapping layers and things to talk about that it gets hard to find the right details. But I wanted to bring up this, since we're on the transhumanist subject.
Or would you rather be a fish?
Right? Would you rather be a fish? So the two animals, so they're disintegrating all these guys, but the two animals that they do decide to turn them into are a pig and a fish, which are two species that have been recently pushed a lot, it seems, in entertainment. We've had obviously there's all this mermaid symbolism all over the place with The Shape of Water, and there's this other show on Freeform called Siren, a bunch of other stuff with sort of fish human hybrid. So I just thought it was interesting that the two, they could have been any random animals, but it was the pig and the fish, and those symbolic for a bunch of other reasons that you could point out too. So it's hard to get bogged down in, how do you connect all the dots when all the dots are sort of multi-pronging out from each other. But let's get back, because that's the thing. There was just so many interesting things in this episode to point at. Right. And It's the subtle things too.
Ow. No, that was too loud. Is that what I sound like?
I'm scared.
I know, I'm scared too.
Gary?
Right, so he's fighting with his. They're fighting with something that went wrong between their two bodies living in one body thing, which has been super confusing the entire time. Probably also, also in the first season, but is making a very good point about the soul not being attached to your physical form, which seems to be something that they're going to roll out pretty soon. Talking alter carbon, it's all over the place these days. But I want to point out these hexagons that are in the ceiling. There's a lot of symbolic sort of architecture that you see in the show. And again, I'm just sort of shooting in the dark. I'm not going to get to the bottom of it, but that's one thing that I thought was really interesting in a lot of rooms in this, and that takes some time. That took some time to design these and hang them possibly. I don't know if it's CGI, but it's a very, very conscious choice. And a lot of the lighting that you'll see in some of these scenes will be the same way. I want to point out. Well, we're going to get to the sensory deprivation tank, but a lot of the lighting and the way rooms are, this is the one I want to point out. This room, the way it's set up, this archway, this is actually the next part we want to talk about. But this archway with the two lights on the side. This is what I want to put it. You see it? The archway. It's this purple sort of glowing light. It's all these symbols put together in the two columns on the side. And I keep seeing this in the show, and it's again, it's just really hard to put your finger on exactly what's going on, what they're trying to present. But I keep seeing this over and over again. Two light sources on either side, and this square figure. I have to find some more examples of it. But the other thing to point out here, this is the sensory deprivation tank. This has been all over television these days too. This has been, it was in Beyond. It was at the end of Beyond. It was in a going back. You can find tons of examples going back to Fringe and even way earlier than that, where the character's trying to learn something or go someplace or figure something out, and the only way to do it is to go inside, go inwards, and put yourself in the sensory deprivation tank. To be able to get to this sort of outside plane, and this is really interesting. You see where this goes.
Which one? Sorry.
Right, but he's able to talk with her while he's trying to work this out. And it's they add sort of a techno element to it where they got this patch bay, but it's basically the same concept. Normally the point of the separate sensory deprivation tank is to be alone and be just in your little box, but apparently these lights are helping him out. But they send him. I wanted to play some of these visuals because this is just so trippy, and this is apparently their visual representation of what it's like to pass into this next world using a separate sensory deprivation sink, sensory deprivation tank, SDT. Anyways, just to point out that that symbol's all over the place, right? I mean, haven't you seen that a million times? The sensory deprivation tank, and just this whole concept of showing us flashing these crazy visuals across the board. It's supposed to represent him going to this new mind place, but is there a secondary effect of us watching these sort of rotating images? Because I've seen a lot of things about how the news always starts with sort of a spiral, and how that spiral effect can have a very quick and subtle effect on your mind and your state of mind. In this scene, the audio is obviously super important, but while it's all going down, The crazy sound design. Right, and they're really advanced with the sound design these days. You can just make some really mind-bending sounds. And I guess that's the main question. That's the main thing where I'm trying to get to the bottom of. Is this just for entertainment? Is it just to get you in a space, or is it really does it have more reasons? And I think it really does. I think all of these shows, watching any of this has multiple reasons for it, multiple layers for everything that they put in there. Essentially, deprivation tank, time travel. So it's like all these things layered on top of each other. I'm going to talk about time travel because he meets his crusher. This is the girl from last season he can't touch, that they're in love forever.
Shit. It worked. Are you real?
Possible. Not possible to be here. Be here.
Well, I'm here. We're here.
Right, and it's constantly this. That shouldn't have been. It's a television show. That's something we talk about at another date, where they mention that it's a TV show, or that something's possible, or that this is real. And what effect that has on the mind when you're actually watching something that is fake, that's really gonna, it sort of blurs reality, it has a great effect when it's done millions of times over and over to everybody all the time.
I had to see you again to understand. They killed people. I let them, I helped them because you said.
But the point I wanted to point out here, sorry, I did another episode about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Here, it's the same. It's these parallel images. Again, let's see if I can find a better frame. Because here, you see her arm, but they're going to show the stub in a second. Right? Where is it? Right? There at the end, yeah, you can see her stub arm. And so she's saying she's in the future and bad stuff is going to happen. It's like a future prophecy of your lover, basically. And we didn't go into that in that episode, but you can find this image too. Marvelous.
Pick a side, but we're going.
I'll cover you.
And anyway, I just wanted a picture, but she gets her arms chopped off. Where is it? Man, I guess this is why people edit videos. Right, but at any rate, she gets her arms cut off. She loses her arms. And it's the same exact story. It's not, but that's the thing. It's not exactly the same. She loses both of her arms and they're cut off by this weird lady, and here's girlfriend lady. She's only missing one of her arms. But it's the same sort of vague connections that just don't seem to be on accident. These are both similar shows about similar things with the similar imagery. And that just seems it's so elaborate. They're on different channels, different networks. It's all Marvel, I guess you could technically say, but it's just a little too specific for me personally. Right? There's just so much into that's what I mean. You can get bogged down. I wanted to play. This is interesting. This is sort of an infomercial about consciousness, narrated by John Hamm. Let's just see if I can get away with this.
A wise man once said, Reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. For the tick, reality is a product of temperature and butyric acid. Its perception of the world is its reality. The bloodhound has 200 million scent receptors. Its perception of the world is based fundamentally on smell. A dog doesn't reason. A tick never thinks about the universe in any way separate from its biological interactions with the universe. Human beings, on the other hand. Imagine a boy. From a young age, he is taught wrong.
This color is called red. This one is green.
Red. Green.
Human beings are the only animal that forms ideas about their world. We perceive it, not through our bodies, but through our minds.
Remember, red means stop, green means go.
We must agree on what is real. Because of this, we are the only animal on Earth that goes mad.
Oh man, so just I mean, come on, right? I mean, that is amazing. It's just that's a little taste of the show. We'll see if they copyright strike that. Amazing show, and this they have these little vignettes. They were doing that last season where it'll be a completely different style. It's just so elaborate, it's so complex, so rich, so thick. It's just, bravo, guys. This is top level propaganda. But that's it's an interesting segment because that's sort of the whole concept of this show is and of our sort of modern culture in general. It's like what our reality is sort of created by whatever people are saying to us. And just that example of learning the colors wrong. If you learn the colors wrong from birth, then yeah, obviously you're just going to believe that. So if the Earth's flat or Jesus is real, any of those things, if you learn these things from birth, then it seems completely normal. Even if it's wrong, even if you've been taught wrong the whole time. If there's no way to know if you've been taught wrong the entire time or whether it's actually wrong. With certain, especially cultural things like color. But really any sort of perception, right? Because if the teachers are teaching you wrong, really crazy stuff can happen there. And that's, just yet another message straight up, basically. This is what's going on. And, red is green, green is red, up is down, that whole concept. We had yo-yo. Yeah, but that concept, we must all agree. What is real? And you saw it was flashed briefly for a second, but I wanted to bring up the black goo because it's going to be showing up at other points. Did we get it here? Wait for a second.
Be strong. Tell them we're in control. Nobody else gets hurt. Oliver, Farouk, we need to talk.
Huh. Okay, I wasn't there. So, I'm trying to cut out all this stuff so you don't need to know about the plot. You need to watch the whole show. Because I had black goo in there. I guess we missed it. There's no black goo out here. This is the crystal ball scene. Yeah, just no. I mean, you saw it flashed in that egg. There's a lot of black goo symbolism, and I mean, you just have to Google black goo to Google to see, that black goo is all over television. There's obviously in this show as well. Yeah, but let's look at this fortune teller thing for a second. So yeah, I mean, he's in the middle of nowhere. You could say this is you could say it's singular. It is very interesting. But this season, or over the last couple of years, there have been a lot of similar villains, and you could say, TV movie villains, they've been the same forever. It's always just sort of archetypes. That's what I mean. I'm trying to get to the bottom. These aren't movie cliches. These aren't movie tropes or any of that. It's really these repetitive symbols that just they seem to keep showing up and come in waves and sort of relate to each other, and then also relate to the current events, what's going on in the world at the time. I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. There's another one. Check that out. You see, you could just say it's lens flare. But this, this is very deliberate here. All of these kind of effects, they would have noticed if it was really an accidental lens flare, they probably would have changed it right away. This is, you can almost guarantee it's done in post-production. And you got to ask the question, like, why? What is the effect? It just sort of have a mystical sort of feel to it. But what's the real reason? Because right after that guy shows up.
Why so sad, my dear?
Right? And that rainbow light is bathing their scene, but only from his angle, right? We don't see it from this angle.
Oh, wait, are you? Monsieur Amal Farouk. Latania. You heard?
Right, so it's the really bad guy. But that's what it's a similar villain to like Negan or other sort of ultra evil villains that we've been seeing a lot. Where he seems kind of like insane, but very charismatic.
Get stronger. دنيا صحنينا ما يشوت الستاريون.
I
Learn
like
this.
this too. He keeps talking in different languages. He keeps changing the language from. It's hard to even say. Mystery.
And what is not? Your
This is the line.
we stands the wet. Layers is real and wet. Layers is that's new. You decide what is real and what is not.
You decide what is real and what is not. And again, I mean, we could have just went straight to this section and focused completely on his speech because this whole speech is amazing. But I guess it's all sort of variations on the same thing. You decide what is real.
You decide what is real and what is not. Your will. حقیقت رو تو به وجود میاری. What is the phrase? The kid is able.
Right? And so that's why, this is definitely a show that people are going to be paying attention to, but you're going to want to repeat your message in multiple different ways over the course of the episode. So depending on who's listening at what time, in what way, they're still going to pick up on the message that, reality, I guess that is the central tenet here. And this ties into natural law and that whole concept that, you decide what is real. Reality is completely based on your own perception and how you see the world. There are no actual real rules, like gravity or any of that, because that, it really is just how you perceive gravity or perceive a slight or perceive anything really. It's entirely up to you. And so that makes each individual able to create the perfect world that they want directly in front of them without it having to actually be real, because they're trying to get you to think, reality is believing, whereas, it is a little more complicated than that. And that's, that would be a good message the bad guy's trying to push out there. Right, they wrestle. I'm just gonna fast forward to some of this. They wrestle, they fight, they change beings. They're sort of wrestling with their minds. You can be whatever you want to be. They come to some sort of decision, yeah, but she's back there. And they're sort of working this out. But again, you see these hexagons. They were on the ceiling. They're in the ceiling in this previous scene. Right there, right? Do you see them? Right? And then they're here on the wall. And you could say, maybe it's a symbol, maybe it's some legion, maybe it's some sort of symbol that's in there. But I feel like it's a lot deeper than that, and there's the Pentagon, right? You got the Pentagon, you got the octagon, or is that the octagon? It's a six-sided, so maybe it is a six-sided. What is the, yeah, six, so that's the devil right there, right? Six-sided. And those are all over the walls. That could be just basic straight up. Oh, and there's the frame. We caught it. Right? Here's the same frame up. And you think I sounded crazy before. It's these two lights. And I could pull out the examples from the previous episodes. Two lights, left and right. Sun and moon. And then the Holy Spirit in the middle, I guess. Because he, he's sort of becoming, he's been the savior of the show. Sort of unwilling, but and I think it's just been him that's placed in this frame, so you can see how deliberate, how aware they are of what they're doing in the show. Is very, very much on purpose, basically everything. So I would leave you with the final scene where he goes to the roof.
Hey.
Over here.
You're
Neat, huh?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Right, so she's able to, whenever she feels like it, transfer her consciousness to an animal, and that's not a problem. They just had to switch consciousnesses. But apparently that's totally possible. It's like I was saying before, maybe this really is like actual technology, but it's in a show. So even considering it, or thinking that could be real is deemed idiotic because it's in the TV show, right? But maybe it is real. Maybe this is inspiration for real technology. But just having it in entertainment gets it buried even deeper. And just more symbols, man. You can just keep going. These hands in the sky pointing. What is the significance of that? And on and on. Right, and there's more of that lens flare. You see it? See the lens flare? This shot doesn't have any on it. It's easy to get out. There it is, though. I can almost guarantee you they didn't shoot the scene outside. I mean, it's got to be a soundstage with all of this stuff in the air. And again, I mean, you just go back and here's what they're talking about.
A year from now? Longer?
I don't know. The future.
That... Was I old?
Right, and again, it's only when we're looking at it from his angle. We're looking at him.
Older. You were...
And I asked you to help Farouk.
These are all, I mean, it's all stuff that it would just fly by. You wouldn't even notice it probably. But once you go back in there and start really studying, you're like, why? Why do they do that? Like, what is does it have a deeper psychological reasoning behind it? Is it just a lens flare? Maybe it's just a lens flare. I mean, maybe I'm just being silly, but that's the thing. You see it once, okay, silly. You see it 20 times, okay, just people copying each other's work. Maybe it's a tendency. You see it like hundreds of times. You see it every single night. That's when I start to be like, what is going on
Why
here?
would I do that?
Did
Right. More of that. I'll leave you with this terrifying imagery. And there he is. This guy is able to, again, mind control all these people. So that's going to do it for me on this one. I know we kept going, but thanks for sticking around. It's been TV on. Later.